Morning everybody, how are y'all doing today? I'm doing great. Yesterday I beat Ghost of Tsushima, and honestly I gotta say this is probably my favorite Sony single player game now. I genuinely do like this one more than God of War and Spider-Man, which I'm gonna be honest, I was not expecting. But yeah, it's an amazing game, and it's definitely like a 9 out of 10 for me. But either way, you aren't here to hear how much I love the game. You're here to hear how much this other guy hates the game, and why you should not buy it. Which honestly, after putting 40 hours into this game, I'm very interested to hear. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into this.
Welcome back to a new video. So recently I've been playing the brand new PC port of Ghost of Tsushima. So this game came out a while ago on PlayStation 4, and as someone who doesn't really own a PlayStation 4 and is more of a PC gamer, I wasn't able to play the game until now.
Well, first of all, same, which is why we need more PC ports. But anyway, putting that aside, I need to take this time to make a public service announcement. Any small YouTubers, streamers, anybody like that, anybody who doesn't want to pay for a good screen recorder, just use OBS, or if you have an Nvidia card, use Nvidia Shadowplay. I use Shadowplay to capture all my gameplay, and while it's not perfect, I think it's pretty good. I'm saying this because seeing that Bandicam logo on the top of his screen brought me back to 7th grade when I tried to do YouTube for the first time. It was bad, but I had a lot of fun, and honestly, I really wish I knew about OBS back then. And if you're looking for a good editing software, use DaVinci Resolve. There's a paid version and a free version. The free version has basically everything you'll need, and it's what I use to edit all my videos. This is not sponsored, by the way. It's just genuinely a great editor. Alright, anyway, with the YouTube advice out of the way, now let's go ahead and hear his actual review of the game.
And as an avid fan of Japanese history and also games set in Japan where you play back in the olden days, hundreds of years ago, as a samurai or ninja, I really find these kind of games really fascinating, interesting. Unfortunately, Ghost of Tsushima just kind of falls flat on its face when it's trying to be this samurai simulator, and I found the game to be kind of bland, boring, and uninspiring, compared to other games like Sekiro, which I believe to be a much more fun game with much more interesting art style and music. I think From Software just does much better Souls-like gameplay than whatever this game is supposed to be. This game is kind of like Souls-like as well, in the way that you are surrounded by enemies, you can target different enemies, you've got block, parry, dodges, heavy attack and light attacks. It does play a lot like a Dark Souls game, but it's not a Dark Souls game, obviously, in the way that it feels and looks.
Okay, we need to dispel this whole Souls-like thing right now. Just because a game is third person and has a lock-on does not mean it is a Souls-like. Now, I've never played one of the games before, but everybody has told me this game's gameplay is much more akin to Assassin's Creed. So the game is definitely not Souls-like, and hell, it's not even really Souls-light, even. What should we call it? I guess Creed-like? Something like that, I don't know. But want to know what this game plays more like than Dark Souls? God of War. Maybe that's a hot take, I don't know, but this game definitely felt a lot more like God of War to me than Dark Souls. Just like how, the combat isn't super complex, you have a few inputs you can do, but not a whole lot, and then there's a lot of parrying involved and stuff like that. Maybe I'm alone in that, so I guess if you agree, let me know. But also keep in mind that he said right there, he's an avid fan of Japanese history. That's going to be very important when he talks about the story. Also, I think it goes without saying, but major story spoilers in this video. Not in the gameplay you're watching, but I'm gonna have to talk about some major story spoilers, so I guess just beware of that.
So compared to Sekiro, which is one of my all-time favorite Japanese games, I'm not really quite sure why I dislike Ghost of Tsushima, but there's something about it that feels very dull and boring, even though the game is very pretty to look at, and the graphics are pretty good, the characters' faces and animations are pretty good, the landscapes and sceneries and the nature stuff like the trees blowing, the leaves falling from the sky looks very beautiful and pretty and everything, but for some reason the game just makes me feel really bored. The gameplay is extremely boring. Basically what you do is you spam left mouse button or right mouse button for heavy attacks, left mouse does light attacks, and then you've got dodging and blocking and counter attacking. So it's just like any kind of basic third-person action melee game that you've ever played. It doesn't do anything new, there's nothing interesting about it.
Now, I'm not sure how much I want to trust you, good sir, because in this gameplay, you're in the literal beginning of the game. So I'm honestly wondering if you even made it past, the tutorial mission. Because obviously, yes, the base combat is just, light attacks, heavy attacks, all that stuff. But as you get further into the game, you unlock new weapons, and more importantly, again, spoilers, new moves. As you play, there's 4 different stances that you unlock. And basically each stance is better for dealing stamina damage against certain types of enemies. So you basically have to like kill one enemy and then immediately on the fly switch to a different stance to take down a different one. And then at one point in the game, you get this move. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like you press LB and RB at the same time and it uses 3 resolve. And it basically slows down time, and Jin does 3 very quick and strong attacks, which 2-shot basically every single enemy. And then in Act 2, you get Ghost Stance, which is really awesome, where if you kill like, I think it's 7 or 8 enemies consecutively without getting hit, then you activate it and everything goes black and white and like the cinematic bars come on. And then you get to one-shot 3 enemies and it does like a super cool like slow-mo red effect. Then on top of that, there's like the Heavenly Strike, which is you press Y and B or triangle and circle at the same time, and you just dash forward extremely quickly and do a bit of damage and stamina damage, which you would know all of this if you actually played the game at least a decent bit in, which something tells me you didn't. But either way, let's keep going.
There's this little mode called standoff mode where you kind of do like a duel, but all you do is basically hold down the right mouse button and release it when the enemy is about to attack you. You also have these stealth modes, which are really boring. Don't know why this game is trying to be like a stealth game, because it's not Assassin's Creed. I think games like Assassin's Creed or Sekiro, they do the stealth mechanism much better. This is just kind of boring. Crouch here, run there, run here. Don't get detected by standing in their line of sight and then get to whatever point you're supposed to get to. The stealth bits felt really annoying and frustrating, really slowed the pace of the game down.
I mean, yeah, the stealth bits can be annoying, but luckily they're very few and far between. And a lot of the times what'll happen is you'll only have to stay stealth for like the first little bit of a mission, and then afterwards you just get to kill everybody. Like there's this one mission where you have to go stealth to disable their alarm, and then after you disable the alarm, you can just go as crazy as you want. And it's pretty funny that he says this game isn't Assassin's Creed when, again, earlier he called it a Souls-like, when this game is far more like Assassin's Creed than Dark Souls, but okay. And with regards to the standoff thing, yeah, you can make standoffs last longer. You can upgrade your standoff so that you can do the initial standoff, and then when another enemy comes to get you, you can kill them as well. And you can stack it up to like, I think 6 times if you have the right armor set. Which, again, you would know if you actually played through the game, which, again, I very highly doubt you did.
But really, the combat in the game, it looks cool because the moves are pretty cool and there's a lot of blood and gore and the enemies die in a very cool way, but you're just basically spamming left button, right button, maybe doing some dodges, a bit of blocking if the enemy is more aggressive. But the combat system didn't really feel very good to me.
I mean, that's definitely 100% personal preference. The combat is definitely a bit more on the simple side, but I like it. And I mean, it isn't just mashing X and Y or light and heavy attacks. There is strategy to it. Like, as you upgrade your different stances, there's different, like, inputs you can do by holding and tapping Y, which can vary it up a little bit. So, I mean, it's not like it's literally just spamming X and Y the whole time to do all your attacks. There is some level of strategy to it. Plus, again, you know, there's the bow and arrow. You get throwing knives, you get bombs. You know, it's not like there's nothing to do besides just spam light attacks. If there was, then yeah, that would definitely be bad combat design.
Unfortunately, there does seem to be some performance issues with the PC port of this game, and there have been reports of people saying that there are memory leaks, and as you play the game for longer and longer, it gets slower and slower and randomly crashes, which is not very good for a PC port. PlayStation, they kind of need to sort this out.
Now, me personally, I've only had like 2 issues with this game that I can think of. One is that my computer gets kind of hot at times. It doesn't like overheat, but like when I put my hand up to the side of it, I can definitely feel it's like noticeably warmer than it is with other games. And then also occasionally, if I'm traveling long distances, sometimes there'll be like a brief stutter for a second. But besides that, I haven't really had any issues. Then again, I do have a 4070 and a Ryzen 9 3900X. So, you know, my PC's pretty good. But yeah, I guess let me know if you've had performance issues on PC or Steam Deck. I don't know what the dude's talking about with the whole memory leak thing, because I haven't heard about that, but who knows, maybe it is a real thing.
I also find the main character of the game kind of annoying and a bit of a wuss and a coward. So he basically just watches his dad die. His dad is literally lying there begging him for help, and then he just like stares at him, and then he starts crying later about how he didn't save his dad and his dad died because of him. And then in the beginning of the game, gets shot in the back by a few arrows and he's crawling around. He loses his armor and his sword, and then you go and fight the big fat Mongolian boss man, and you get beaten again and thrown off a bridge, and then he's like crawling back whilst having memory flashbacks of his past. He just seems to lose all the time. He's just like a big loser who whines about oh, this is not honorable, that is not honorable. The woman character, Yuna, I think her name is, she's actually logical and sensible, and she's like, let's sneak up on them and slit their throats. But then the stupid main character is like, no, that is not honorable, we must face them head to head, even though they outnumber us 20-1.
Alright, there's a lot to unpack there. So first of all, the main character is a coward who watched his dad die. Yeah, it's almost like that's an important part of his backstory, and it influences who he is in the game. He let his dad die because he himself was afraid to die, and ever since that day he's regretted it, and now he's devoted his life to becoming an extremely honorable samurai who's not afraid to face down any challenge. Second, he's a big loser. Yeah, you know, God forbid we have some character development where he decides that despite the fact that Khotun Khan is obviously way stronger than him, he's gonna give his life to try and save his uncle and just the island as a whole. And then obviously he gets his ass kicked because, you know, like hours prior he had woken up just having healed from arrows being shot into his back. And also, you know, it's the beginning of the game, so the character isn't very strong, you know, that's another thing. But then guess what happens as the story progresses? Jin gets stronger. And this is actually a good segue into the next part, where he's like, oh, this guy's so annoying talking about honor and all that. You say you're super into Japanese history. You do know that honor is a very important part of Japanese history, right? And also that he was raised by his uncle, Lord Shimura, the leader of the samurai in Tsushima, you know, appointed by the shogun himself. And in his upbringing, Jin was taught all about how important honor is. And that's not even to mention the fact that you say, oh, it's so annoying how much he's obsessed with honor. This is how I know this guy did not play the full game. As the story progresses, Jin slowly begins to realize if you want to save everybody, sometimes you can't be honorable, especially if the enemies aren't going to be. And in fact, remember when I mentioned Ghost Dance earlier? Well, how you unlock it is you kill one of the leaders, like one of the generals or whatever, and right before he's about to die, you stab him in the back and then slice his head clean off, and then you start absolutely massacring the Mongols and driving fear into them, which is the opposite of honorable. And then later on, a similar thing happens, but this time when Lord Shimura is watching, and Jin like picks up the head of the guy he decapitated and he like throws it at the Mongols, and he says, yeah, run, cowards. And then Lord Shimura is like, Jin, what are you doing? And then Jin says, oh, I'm just saving our island, you know, I'm doing what I have to do to survive. And then there's a whole fight about it, and there's a falling out. Whatever, the point is, yes, he starts out being all like, oh no, we have to be honorable. But the main part of Jin's character arc is how he begins to not abide by honor rules, because he realizes if he tries to fight honorably against non-honorable enemies, everybody he knows and loves is just gonna die. Again, you would know all of this if you actually played the game. Hell, you don't even have to do any side content. You can literally just do the main story and learn all of this. But again, something tells me he didn't.
So basically most of the game involved you running up to a bunch of enemy soldiers, spamming attacks. You can take one out pretty quickly by just jumping and doing heavy attack. And then the rest you just spam attacks on whilst they circle around you, not really moving or doing much. Then a few dodges and blocks here and there, rinse and repeat, and that's basically the entire game. His head also looks kind of too big for his body. I just didn't really like the main character. He's too whiny and annoying.
Dude, Jin is like the opposite of whiny. I don't know what you're talking about. Also, what do you mean his head is too big? Oh my god. These critiques are just getting petty at this point. I mean, I'll admit, when I made Jin in Elden Ring, I did have to make the cheekbones a little wider. But why is that a problem with the game? Oh my god. Plus, why focus on Jin's face when every time you enter a hot spring, you get a nice view of a full moon? And I ain't talking about the one in the sky.
So unfortunately for those reasons, I can't really give this game a very good recommendation. I'd have to give it a 6.2 out of 10. It's a nice try at a Japan style kind of samurai game, but I feel like if you want a game set in Japan in the olden days, there's much better options like Sekiro and the upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows. I think that's going to be a much more interesting game than what this has to offer.
Ain't no way bro just said Assassin's Creed Shadows is gonna be a better samurai game than Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, do I even need to say anything about that? You know what? Not only do I not need to say anything, I don't want to. We are not about to go down this rabbit hole, at least not in this video. Also, I might as well use this time to mention, he says, oh, well, a better game for Japan in the olden days would be like Sekiro or something like that. I actually found this out through Nintendo. You do know this game was so good at portraying Japanese history, and the Japanese loved it so much that I can't remember if it was the government of Japan as a whole or just Tsushima. Either way, one of those two governments made the lead developers for this game official ambassadors and spokespeople for Tsushima. That is how good this game was at portraying Japanese history and culture. So honestly, honestly, at this point, this isn't even really a matter of opinion. You're kind of just wrong.
And yeah, maybe. The enemies just are also really dumb. They just kind of stand around waiting for you to attack before they attack most of the time. So they're pretty easy to take down. I was playing on medium difficulty, and I didn't really feel like anything in the game really threw much of a challenge towards me, unless I was just kind of falling asleep and not really paying attention to what I was doing, and I just accidentally forgot to block or dodge.
So you were playing on medium difficulty, and now you're complaining the game was too easy. Here, dude, you know what? I have a little suggestion for you. Come in here, come in here. This is gonna be some ASMR real quick. ASMR, I give you a suggestion on how to make Ghost of Tsushima harder. How about you try turning up the difficulty? You know, I'm not a video games expert or anything like that, but maybe if you want the game to be harder, try turning the difficulty up. There's 4 difficulties and you were on the second. Now, if you were on the harder difficulties and it was still too easy, then that would be worth complaining about, or maybe you're just a god gamer or something, I don't know. But it's completely unfair to complain about a game being too easy when you have it on medium difficulty. This reminds me of when the amazing Lucas played Halo Infinite, and he said, oh, I played the whole game on Legendary and it was way too easy, when in reality he played the whole game on normal, and then for like the final boss he switched it to Legendary, and then he got his ass handed to him for like a few hours straight. But either way, we did it, we're done, we made it through the video, thank God. And this guy said he gave the game a 6.2 out of 10. Well, flip that number around, that's what I give his review. I give it a 2.6 out of 10, because almost nothing he said here made any sense. And all I can say is just please don't listen to this. Well, listen to this, like listen to my video, but don't listen to him. Whatever, you know what I mean. But yeah, anyway, with all that being said, that's gonna do it for this video. If you stuck around to the end, I really do appreciate it. And I guess your reward for making it to the end is you can have a little super secret update real quick. Obviously, I was able to post a lot more in May than other months because I got out of school and I had like nothing going on. But as of today, I've officially started my summer job. I am lifeguarding for, I think this is the 5th year now I've done it. So don't worry, I'm not going anywhere, but uploads will probably slow down a little bit. Just because, you know, now I'll have 4 to 8 fewer hours every day to do stuff. But don't worry, the stream should remain unaffected. So anyway, with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it, subscribe if you want to see more. Join us every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern for Salt streams, and I will catch you all next time.